So, but I think having conversations like this, I think helps open the door that person may not be like trying to control you, but just trying to help.
Because I think I mentioned that before. I've been telling Jeff, like, you know my daddy. Because
like,
I didn't have, I don't like, you know my daddy.
I was like, if I was,
what you say? All right.
Welcome to the Lab Learn Love podcast with Mr. and Mrs. Mister, where we believe in every season of life. You need to lab, learn, and love. I'm your host, Mr. Mister, aka Jeffrey Mister. And right beside me is my wife. And every day we get closer to 15 years of marriage. So somebody's praying.
Mrs. Mister, aka Dana Mister. And together we are the Misters.
Yeah. Welcome. If this is your first time, thank you for joining along this train today. And if you've been watching with us and rocking with us, we thank you.
Yes, this is episode 50.
Yes, 50. They said it couldn't be done, and we're here, and we thank you. Pew, 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 pew. Let it go.
That's so funny.
Let me see you do it. Did y'all feel that? I think you did that. Like,
anyway, today is a great topic.
Let me do it one more time. Pew, 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 pew.
Anyway.
We'll continue to work on it. Yeah. So today we're talking about
daddy issues.
As a father myself, I can see how some of those issues can play themselves out, and so maybe what's your daddy?
Because this is a great episode because we just coming off the cuff of like Father's Day weekend.
Salute to all the dads.
Yeah, so I commend all the dads who hold it down.
For sure. Because when they don't, you've seen people lash out. You've seen Shaq saying when Shaq got big and he went to the NBA and his real dad was like, "Shaq, baby, son, come on, let's go play catch." He was like, "Man, my biological didn't bother, and my stepdad is a real father. So like that, even if you're 7 feet tall, you know what I'm saying? If your father's not in your life, it affects you in some type of way." He made a whole song about it. And so imagine, like LeBron James' daddy, like looking at LeBron James now, like, man, I probably should have been there now.
So LeBron James' daddy wasn't
No, he's not.
Okay.
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
So
everybody got daddy issues.
A lot of folks do. So hopefully you can relate this, whether you're male or female, whether you're married or not, or whatever the situation is. It plays itself out, and if you're not familiar with it, and you're thinking, "I'm good. I don't need nobody. I don't need anybody." Maybe that is a defense mechanism that you've used to survive where you are right now. But you may have some things going on today. So we talked about daddy issues, talking about the real thing. Shout out to all the great fathers that are in their kids' lives. And so I strive to be one of those. I try to be in my kids' lives and whatnot too. I didn't know. I never was a parent before this, so I can see how the key is once you see their face. That's the thing. So most fathers try to leave before they see their face, so that way they don't have anything. That's the key. Once I saw it,
yeah, and you realize they look just like you. You can't do anything about it. Okay.
I guess I'll stay around just a little bit right there. So, question you want to ask yourself as you get into this episode: was my dad in my life? Was he there physically, but maybe not emotionally? Maybe he was in the house.
Why are you whispering?
This is my talk. Am I whispering?
It sounds like you whispering. I'm
this
like,
is my talk. This is my talk. I can hear myself in the mic, so maybe that's what it is.
Maybe that's what it is. Okay,
so,
got it.
Am I whispering? Y'all, let me know if I'm whispering or not. I feel like I'm talking. I spent my whole life. They always tell me, "Shh,
I know."
you're too loud.
Now it's like you're like. So then I was like, so did he change his voice for the podcast?
This is my voice. I'm trying to. I thought this is my.
Okay. Be your particular you. Yeah.
Let me go into my.
Okay.
Done it.
I was like,
welcome to BT.
Oh, okay. That's what's up. Okay.
So thank you. This is my voice. I try to be the same way on both sides. So, and just thinking about how did your father not being there affect you? Maybe you're saying it didn't affect me. Maybe it did, and some of it. We're gonna talk about 6 ways it possibly did. We had somebody write a letter in too, and kind of gave shout out to you, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Also too, that directly correlates to this problem. So do not go anywhere. Hit that subscribe, hit that like, wherever you're going, and share this with somebody too, man. That may be going through daddy issues. Don't just keep this to yourself. And then folks who have been shacking with us, go and hit the subscribe. We talk about that. So, every episode we like to laugh, learn, and love. If you've been with us all the time, we're going to start off with a laugh. We just a little story time for us. On Father's Day, we went with the family, with the kids. We went to a department store, Macy's, and just going around. So they was like, go and pick you a couple items out or whatever like that. You know, she was trying to trick me into getting something. Probably what she was trying to do. I don't know what she was doing. You know, women become up with stuff. And so I'm trying to. So we're celebrating our anniversary. We're gonna talk about that soon in the next couple of weeks too, about celebrating anniversaries and all those things. So our anniversary is coming up 15 years, as I always say in the beginning of the party episode. And so I found some swim trunks because I want to be fresh on the beach. And I saw something that looked real good, but they didn't have my size. I wear a size medium, and they had a large, extra large, 2X large, whatever, like that, a small, but not my size. So I'm thinking, man, what's going on? So I did find the correct size, and guess what the correct size was? It was already being worn by somebody, so I had to take it up off of it. It was the mannequin, of course. The mannequin had on my size short. So what would you do if the mannequin has on, because some people say this too, what do you do when the mannequin has on your outfit and there's nobody to help you in the moment? So I took it up on myself to do what? I said, you're going to have to come up off these, because I'm not finna be at the pool and, you know, my short slip, and then now I got to explain why I'm half naked out here. So I want my size, you know. I don't want to jump, I want my size that I'm wearing. So, but I need help to get these off. And so who would you call for help if you need to get some off the mannequin? Huh? Somebody that you have paid for the ring for. So let me tell you something, ladies. So when you on social media posting your little funky ring and all this stuff, this is what you sign up for. If your man needs help to get the
first of all, that is so inappropriate.
What you mean?
That was so inappropriate. Okay, so we are in there, and I'm with the kids, and everybody is all over Macy's. And so I'll come over because I was like, man, Jeff is taking him quite a while. So I went back over there, and he is over there talking about, hey, I need your help with something. I was like, what's up? He was like, I need you to help me get these swim trunks off the mannequin. And like, keep in mind, my whole thing is, okay, first of all, people have put stuff on a mannequin. Why? To sell, like they want to.
To sell, yes, correct. And what was I doing? I'm the buyer.
So anyway, so it's like, okay, so it's not one of those things where the mannequin, where you have to just pull the stuff down the mannequin there. They have screwed the thing on. So it was a more.
She's talking about the foot of the base.
The foot of the base is screwed, and so
you can unscrew it. Yes, you
can. So, but anyway, look, he got him. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but hey. Got it.
That's not the question we're asking. We're asking you, are you supposed to help your spouse when you don't agree with them and they want to get something off the mannequin? Do you help them? And so she reluctantly, when I pulled off the screw, right, so the foot comes loose. If you let the mannequin go, he can smash or break. And we ain't here to pay for no mannequin for those shorts. So I'm like, I need somebody to hold this mannequin. So our daughter's in the background, like, Dad, on Father's Day, we're going to jail. So that's what I said. So I said, not if your mama hold this. I'll see hold this thing down. So yeah. So the thing is, I got the video on my page too. If you haven't seen it, go on my page, Mr. Jeffrey Wilson. You can see that down. But so she ends up holding the mannequin. I end up taking the shorts off. Now I ask, do you put the clothes back on the mannequin when you're done? I did not, because I was like, well, I got what I came for. I'm sure there's somebody there that's paid to do that, can put it on there, right? So I get to the register, the girl's like, girl, yeah, it's no problem. And so I told her, so like, boom, see that? You gotta trust your man. When you put that, one more time, when you say yes, you're saying yes, not just to the wedding. Oh, I said something. You're saying yes to all the foolish shenanigans that can take place when you go through that. So
okay. Anyway, I don't necessarily agree with it. I just feel like, hey, if your size is not there, or even ask something. No, I'm not saying that. It's not giving up. I'm just saying, like, or ask most of the time, like, because I've been in stores before where like the stuff been on a mannequin, but like, oh, let me ask somebody to see, ask for assistance and all of that stuff. He was like, I don't got time, but I'm like, we already been in the store for 3 hours.
Well, I definitely don't have time for it now since I've already spent my time for it.
But anyway, he got his shorts. So
she helped me with.
Well, I just helped the mannequin.
Committing with the crime.
Yeah. At that point, I was like, look, I'm just ready to go. Let's go. So anyway.
So yeah, so if you're in the same situation, would you help your spouse? Would you be the person that's actually get the shorts off, or would both of y'all be?
Even our kids were embarrassed.
So they need that type of embarrassment. You need those type of levels to know, you can get past that. So yeah, so just let us know, that's the last portion right there. So shout out to all the fathers. Now we're talking about daddy issues today, just jumping right into it. And so thinking about that, right? So starting off, I don't know. So a great place of this would be like putting it in the context of your kids or your future kids if you don't have any right now. You're thinking about what are some things that you want to see your daughter. We have a daughter, so this is something we don't have to imagine. But what are some things that you want your daughter to see from her father? What are some things when you first come? We haven't talked about this necessarily before, so I want to hear the first things that come to your mind when you think of what are some things you want to. I guess your daughter to get from
I think what I would love for my daughter to get from our relationship or just relationship in general is know how to respect and treat someone.
Okay.
You know, like making sure that person, you know, treat her like the future queen that she is.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
I would also love for her to get how to communicate, like even in disagreements. You know, I think a lot of times we're not taught how to communicate even with disagreements, and I think that's just so important. It's like, how do you have a healthy dialect or conversation even when you don't necessarily agree with that person, right? Because I feel like that they're gonna be, I mean, because nobody is exactly alike, or at least I don't think so. So when you get in a relationship, there's gonna be disagreements, right?
You better say something.
And so how do you handle that and from a healthy perspective, right? Without cussing somebody out or without beating them, or you know what I'm saying, or throwing something at them. Like, how do you have like that healthy dialogue with each other?
Okay, positive for just positive. So those are two good ones. I think you just mentioned there. I'm starting the last one you just said in terms of like being able, because a lot of people see that is the norm. So whether married or unmarried, your mom was unmarried or whatever, married or whatever, they see when you have conflict, let them know. Like, don't be a punk. You gotta let them know. If you don't stand for it like that, then they will never get the point of what happens. And also, too, you said being able to discuss problems and issues in the moment and whatnot too. I'm thinking about myself coming up, like I wasn't necessarily saw my folks like work through something like some we're gonna talk about this in a moment too, but like being able to like talk through issues and stuff. My mom's able to, because we you know talk all the time now. And so she would say, like, you know, when there would be issues, like she would just kind of sing or she would do stuff like that.
But the issues were never addressed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the issue was never resolved.
So you just kind of like moved on, sweeping under the rug. Yes. And then you wonder why you lash out because stuff done built up.
Yeah. So I don't know if I learned that lesson earlier on, but I'm always like, I don't mind conflict. So like if when people have something with me, like I don't mind talking it out at that point in time, but I don't think I necessarily saw that coming up. That wasn't necessarily the norm coming up for you. You know, I'm going with that piece. What did you see in terms of conflict? How did that impact you later now in the marriage you're in with this BET soul voice that you hear?
How can I put this? Because I want to be respectful of.
Yeah, I mean, no. So let me.
No, I want to be respectful, so I don't want to, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
My thing is, you know, there were challenges. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, I don't necessarily believe. Well, first of all, for the first 12, 13 years, like I shared before, it was just my mom, right? So it was just her. So like there was no, you know, so.
So how was that? Did you see her date anybody? Did you see anything like that?
Yeah, I saw her date mainly I saw her date the person that she's, you know, my stepfather, the person, you know, that she ended up marrying and whatnot. I saw her date.
Did you see
I saw her date my father earlier on, but it wasn't I don't know. It was just different. It was just a different type of dynamic.
That's what I wanted to hear from her, because I haven't heard of.
Well, I don't know. It's like I want to be respectful. So yeah. So my thing is, I mean, yeah. So I mean, so I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's hard for me to explain. But anyway, I would just say for me, I would have, you know, I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'm not there because I want to be respectful of people and their current, you know, their dynamics and relationships and stuff like that. So I would just say this. That's one of the things. Let's just speak on us. So in regards to us, I would love for my daughter to see a healthy communication when you have a disagreement. And what does that look like? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, even when we disagree, like, can you keep your voice calm? Like, do you raise your voice? You know, all of those things. You just want to make sure that it's just a healthy conversation.
For sure. And I think like what we see coming up, like shapes what we think is normal, or things we're like, I'm not going to, you know, be a part of something like this too. And so like couples I've talked to before have that same mindset, like, okay, either I find somebody that's similar to what I can come up and I didn't know it, or I find somebody completely different, but I still long to solve the issues of what I saw in my parent. I think that's something that for Shaq, for what you're saying, that for us, I think for those things is do you even realize that being the case? We got a letter, and so it's another thing too. MF help me. MF means Mr. Family. So I'll read this for us. MF help me. This is for you then, I think, for the most part. So, dear Mistress in MFs, that's Mr. Family. I want to thank Dana for bringing up the fact that she has daddy issues on the episode with Solidify Wellness. Yes. All right, shout out Solidify Wellness as well. All right, my dad was not involved as well, and I saw my mom make it by going into independent mode. All right, I grew up never seeing how a marriage should go, and I never saw my mom be affectionate toward a man. I'm married now to a great man with kids, but it's so strange for me to cuddle or be physical with him, and he loves it. I don't know now if I just don't like it or if I've learned it by seeing my mom be this way. MF help me. Woo! So summarize the letter up. Young lady's married. She's admired Dana for, you know, being open about the daddy issues that she has. That's the thing today. And so she's now trying to figure out if her lack of affection is a part of who she is, or is it something she's learned from seeing her mom go into independent mode? Great question. MF help me. Y'all in the comments, please respond to this, young lady. She'll be able to see. I'm gonna kick off you, Dana, since this is more tailored to you. I have a response, but what do you think there? What do you think for this lady? What advice would you give?
I would probably say it's probably learned. It's probably just a learned behavior as a result between not seeing that affection with your mom being involved with a significant other. I just believe it's one of those things that could just be learned, because I think we have to check ourselves, you know, to say, like, is it that we just don't like cuddling, or is it just we don't like, you know, we didn't see that growing up with your spouse. Only because, like, I know for me, like with my kids, I'm very affectionate, right? Like, and what's so crazy is though, like, my mom wasn't the huggy feeling type person anyway. She'd tell you that she just really wasn't. But I mean, we knew she loved us and all of that stuff. So I didn't necessarily see that, you know, between me and her either. So with my kids though, I'm very affectionate. You know.
Why is that? What if you get to the root?
I don't know. I think because, you know, it's just one of those things. I birthed them. That could be one. You know, I birthed them. They came out of me. That's who, you know, they're. Okay, but anyway, you know, so it's one of those things that, you know, I just feel like, you know, you just connected, and then they are like affectionate as well. So one of them is one of my children. One of them are. And so I just think it was one of those things. Whereas, you know, it takes a lot more for me to be more affectionate with Jeff. So, and I just think is who I am is my makeup. And I think it's just one of those things that just kind of is learned. Yeah.
So it's a learned behavior.
Yeah. That's for me. Okay. I can't speak for nobody else.
Yeah. So maybe the same thing for her then in the place. I was going to say, of digging to the same question I just asked you, of being able to dig too into saying, of getting outside of what you would normally do. So like learned behavior is if your dad woke you up at 5:30. A lot of people wake up at 5:30 because that's just the way it went. And so now just trying something different. So like experiencing that, being able to have the conversation about it. I think having this conversation with your husband would greatly benefit, because as a husband, he may be thinking something's going on. We're like, oh, well, what's going on? She don't. And so I think having the conversation and being honest about, like, hey, this is what I'm still just learning about myself. This is how I came up. I think that opens the door so that either side doesn't have to, you know, put themselves in a place that you don't really know what's going on. So MF helped me. Hopefully that helps you out of the sense, but keep communicating through those times and being open to hearing what he has to say, and then vice versa for him. Also, to being open to hear what she has to say.
I think communication is important. I believe, just basically just sharing with him, like, hey, this is something totally new for me. Like, I didn't see this growing up. It's not an excuse, but I would make every effort to try my best to try to show some type of affection to you, because I understand, especially for some men, like I know for Jeff, that that touch, physical touch and affection, that's something that's a part of his love language. So he loves it, so okay then. So it's just something that you just have to constantly make a conscious effort. Like, although this may not necessarily be my love language, this is my husband. And again, going back to loving my husband as he desire to be loved, as he should love me as I desire to be loved. So
so great saying that too. I was in couples classes this past week, and we were kind of talking about that of just many times it's socially accepted for the man to try to learn how to love the woman, but not necessarily, you don't see a lot of examples of it being the way you just named there, of the woman having to learn how to love. So a lot of people who listen to this episode who may be like, hey, I grew up with my mom or grandmama or whatever in a sense, and I've seen men try to woo them and do those things, but I haven't learned or heard anything that I've seen my mom try to grow in a way to learn to love that person. That's something I share. I was like, that's profound, because if we come up in that same thing, I don't want my daughter to come up and think that, okay, she's just the way she is, and every male has to, just learn to love her, and they have to change and conform and continue to grow. But she is perfect the way she is now. I'm trying to, grow the best way she can be that. But I think that's powerful though. But I'm saying that's a powerful thing, because a lot of women may still be single now because they feel like men have to conform to them, but they don't have to conform to learning how to love somebody that doesn't speak their natural love language too. So that's powerful. If you didn't catch that, because that's something that a lot of people are held up on. Like, if you can't love me the way I am, don't love me. But you want people to conform to love you in a way, it's not fair either way. So male or female, whatever way you think in that place, but it's a continual growth. Continue to put yourself in that place. So that may be part of your daddy issues too, or maybe you've seen your mom not try to learn and grow in a different way, and so everybody had to conform to her, and not necessarily her dealing with some of the issues too that she may have dealt with. So we're gonna look at six. We're gonna look at 6 ways a daughter may be affected by daddy issues. So you get a chance to look at these 6 ways and say, is this me? And if you have a spouse that way, great conversation for you guys to have about those things as well. Number 1 is fatherless daughters have self-esteem issues. Self-esteem issues. So I think they talked to Deborah Moskovic. Kids often blame themselves when dad leaves the home, becomes less involved in their lives. When they aren't given an explanation about why dad left, they make up their own scenario and jump to the conclusion that it's their fault and what they're that they're unlovable. So thinking about that of just when they're gone, and if there's no discussion about what happened, which is many times the case, sometimes the kids may be too small, or you don't feel like they need to be a part of the conversation, then they create their own. So
they create their own narrative.
Yeah.
And so I would say this, especially for those, because unfortunately, there are some ladies now that's faced with the situation where the dad has left or whatnot. Yeah. Or there may even be some fathers where the mother has left. I've heard of that situation. So I would just say, well, everybody's trifling when you do this. So let's just not. But I would say this, just make sure you communicate. Unfortunately, and I know some people want to say, well, like, you want to hold off because, you want them to maintain their innocence. And I do believe there's a way that you be able to communicate to a child when things on their level based on the age, right? And then as they grow, then you can start to, get even more on their level, right? And I would even say, even if it's a mom or a dad, if you just don't know where to, this is where you need to really reach out to a counselor or a pastor to help you navigate this unknown territory. But I do believe as parents, it is our responsibility to discuss with the child on their level what has transpired, right? Because I feel like when you leave it to chance, to where the child has to create their own narrative. Keep in mind, as children, they have wild imaginations, right? I mean, like, even to this day, I feel like I still have wild imagination. But as children, they really have wild imaginations. So you don't want them to create their own narrative because they're going to feel some type of way. The main thing is, as a parent, you tell the child, no matter what has happened, whether mom or dad has left the home, you are still loved, right? That has nothing to do with them. You need to ask them how they're feeling because they have left. Because children have feelings, right? You need, so they be able to explain, I feel, and that's one of the things I even work with my son. He has this thing where he just shut down, right? He doesn't want to explain himself, right? Of how he's feeling. So tell me, how do you feel? And it's okay to feel the way. Do you feel angry? Do you feel mad? Do you feel sad? What emotion are you dealing with? Maybe read a book. There are so many books out there about, I'm sure there are books out there where a parent has left the home so they be able to articulate their, their feelings. So there are so many different ways that you be able to do. The main thing is helping that child to feel love and let them understand that it's not their fault. Because me and daddy can't work out or whatever, like, it's not your fault, right? Exactly. So, and explain it to them on their level.
Yeah, so just one more quick point I was going to say is just, even if you guys cannot get along, because I know that's sometimes the case, some fellas out there like, this lady is crazy, and I just, just to avoid that, I mean, hopefully the kids are doing just fine. Push through that and just try to come up with another place, even if you haven't have a third person come in and join y'all. You got to come in the situation, just saying. And ladies, don't keep, the dad from the kids and vice versa. Dad don't keep the mom from the kids, whatever the situation is, if they're mentally stable, to be in that place. But they need both sides. You need both of those sides. It's hugely important. And we see teaching in schools, I used to see girls who did not have their father there, and like some of them would, they would just do different things to try to get attention. Even my attention. I'm just like, baby, this ain't it. This ain't what you need to do. And so, but imagine those same girls growing up and what are they doing now when they see different things. So you see some things come out. So that is a huge piece there. So
yeah, most definitely. Communication is so is huge, because again, you don't want your child feeling some type of way, and it's so crazy. I say sometimes, a lot of times, people, men or women, fathers or mothers, decide to leave because, number one, they don't no longer want the responsibility, right? And so, or because they're rather avoidance, because whether they feel like the mom or the dad is acting crazy,
that's one of the big ones.
And so they just were like, you know what, I'd rather not avoid. I just rather avoid this situation. But keep in mind, when you avoid, you're hurting that child. So again, if you just decide you just avoiding, do your best to push through, because it's worth it for that child. Fight for your child. Now, for those who just don't want responsibility, shame on you. Shame on you. Because the child that has to be here, so I need for you to man up or woman up and take responsibility for it. So, and that's my 2 cents.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. 2 is daughters with absent fathers struggle to build and maintain relationships. And you wonder, and so some of my guy friends whose fathers were not there too. I know we're talking about girls, I guess, in this situation, but also 2 guys. Like anytime a relationship would go up and it'd be any conflict, they would have some situation on the phone. I've heard some of my like good friends like, nope, she ain't the one, and they would have this false pretense of this person. We should never really get into a disagreement, or I guess have any like friction on something. So a lot of that comes from that, and so it's hard to build and maintain. Almost 15 years for us, right? So plus, time of dating and stuff. So like, imagine all the hurdles and whatnot we've had to go through those times. And typically, we can take on the trait of our father in those moments, because if they ran when things got tough in situations, you may tend to just throw in the towel super early, because listen, life is too short not to be happy, right? And so you hear things like that, and so they're like, well, does that mean that you're not going to deal with conflict, or you're not going to deal with something that's going on? So I think that is the big piece of if you a runner, you a track star, then you might. You see what I did there? But you may be dealing with something that your father did and they ran, and you may be running too, but what were they running from? And then also too, it may not have been a one-sided thing. If your mom was there, what toxic traits did she have that also may have built into just that separation between the two. So it's multifaceted, but I think it's really once you get into the thing of am I doing some of the same things that my father did? Am I a dude right now and I got kids and I hated my father growing up, and so now it's hard for me to maintain relationships, or I only give so much of myself in it because I don't really want to be let down like my dad let me on the steps when I had my suitcase waiting on him. So I think those things are big.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that, and I also believe that when you have, like, the statement is it's hard for you to maintain relationships. I believe that's true. I remember I used to find myself where I used to always have a small niche group of friends, right? I never was one to have, like, where I call it everybody is my friend, because a couple of things, you don't want people, unfortunately, would disappoint you, or you take on that attitude that people would disappoint you. And then even like with your careers, you find yourself like, you know what, I just do it myself, because people tend to let you down. They don't show up when you don't need to show up. So it's like, you know what, don't worry about it, I got it. So you don't realize how so much of those things, something as a result of your parent not being there, you carry over to many different aspects of your lives. So I would definitely say, just make sure, again, check it. You do have to work harder. You have the person, not people. You have to work harder to trust people.
You helping somebody.
You know what I'm saying? You have to work harder. I mean, it becomes challenging because you're like, you know what? They're going to let you down. Like, you already go in with the preconceived notion that people are going to let you down. And it's so sad that you feel that, that we have to go through life. So again, we have to work 10 times harder to, like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to trust it. Okay. And I find myself just doing baby steps. Like with my career. Okay, I'm going to relinquish this role because, to see, now they disappoint me. Now I'm going to be like, oh, see, that's the reason why. But for the most part, people are able to show up, right? Yeah. For the most part, people will show up. But again, we have to test the waters. For those who have gone through, we have to test the waters.
You are helping somebody. So, on us real quick on that same point right there. How now the Dana today, from the Dana maybe 14, 15 years ago, did you see some of those things in terms of maintaining this relationship that was difficult, in terms of maybe conflict or anything like that you look back on? What you just said was very powerful. Do you see anything of those characteristics in the Dana from before that may have showed up in this relationship?
Oh, most definitely. The Dana from before was probably missed all kinds of stuff in this relationship. I don't know. Weddings and marriages up and down all the time. I don't know.
But if you can name just one thing. I don't want to name it because I want you to name it.
Let's see. I think for probably like, I don't know. It's so much. You name something.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to deliberately say it. So when we were engaged, and it's the time right before we get married, everybody's there. We got
yes.
Let me story time.
Yes. Okay. So hold on. No. Yes, they brought up a good point.
Okay. Now you're ready to tell it.
So before we got married, I planned my own wedding. Of course, I'm a natural planner, so I planned our own wedding, and so I wanted some columns to put, in the church, the columns, you guys know, the 8-foot columns, the white columns, and you put flowers and stuff on top. So I was like, okay, cool. So anyway, I asked Jeffrey, I was like, hey, because I had to go pick up people and all of that stuff, because again, it was hard for me to delegate. I'm like, okay, I can go pick up this person, this person, this person, this person, knowing that I'm getting married. So anyway, I asked Jeff, I said, hey, I tried to relinquish a couple of my roles, and I was like, hey, can you pick up some columns from Holly Springs? The lady that was doing my floors was in Holly Springs. So I was like, can you pick up the columns from Holly Springs? Yeah,
it was about 30 minutes.
And so it was about 25 minutes away. 30 minutes. Okay. So anyway, he was like, he agreed. He agreed to it, right? He agreed to pick up the columns, right? So fast forward, I think I just asked him randomly, hey, did you pick up the columns? He was like, you know what? Well, I don't think I should go to Holly Springs to pick them up. I think we should just rent them from this place here. And for me and my mind, it was like, see, this is the reason why I don't ask people to do anything for me.
Trigger.
No, so I don't like we had a big disagreement. I don't know if people know this. Like we had a big disagreement. We got married that Saturday. We had a big was it that Thursday?
It was close because everybody was already in town.
Because everybody was in town. And I remember throwing his keys in the bushes. Oh y'all.
In front of everybody.
In front of everybody.
Super disrespectful. Too disrespectful.
So
most of them be like, well, listen, you can take them columns up to the
and so one of our good friends, Lorenda, shout out to Lorenda's at the time, he came in. I think Lorenda's probably helped saved us because like he was like, well, I'm done. I was like, I'm done too. I don't need that.
You see that? You a runner. She's a runner. She's a track star.
I used to be a runner. So anyway,
literally, she's the runner.
So yeah, literally. So whenever I got stressed out, I used to run like seriously because it clipped my mind.
All these things are.
But anyway, so Lorenda's came and he was after we calmed down all that stuff, he was able to rationalize. So Dana, it's the same amount of columns, And I think because the issue was
the same thing I've been saying this whole time.
But the issue was, what it was, the place in Oxford didn't have 8 feet.
They had 6 feet.
They had 6 feet.
I can give you receipts.
And so my thing was, but no, I needed the 8 feet. And so Lorandis was like, well, how about we put the columns on the steps to give you your 8 feet? But Jeff didn't explain it that way. But anyway, that was one circumstance where, yes.
I just want to say one quick little caveat to that. I never got the opportunity to explain it. Loranda said, he came back to me and said, I said the exact same thing that you said. That's why I said it's the triggering moment of it, of just the fact of, she had already made up her mind. All she heard was, I didn't get the 8 feet columns. There was no point of like, oh, well, okay, you're a very rational man because I said yes. Boom. So there must be some logical reason. It was like, you didn't get the 8-foot columns.
Well, people who know who plan a wedding, you already stressed. It's time saying you got all these people coming into town. Everything, when you get closer to the wedding, it seems like, and I didn't have a planner. That's the reason why I love planning people weddings because I understand how people are going through. And so, but yeah. But anyway, so yeah.
Whose side was y'all on? Let me know on that because I'll get that place. We're going to know it through.
So women with absent fathers are more likely to have eating disorder.
Yes.
They write ethically about the fact that girls who are physically and emotionally absent fathers are at greater risk of developing eating disorder.
Yes.
Now, I didn't go through this. I don't think I went through that, but maybe that's,
Sometimes it's reversed to where it can be this stuff. So like, it may not be eating disorder, but you find comfort in food. So that's what happens. You're just like, you know what? Ooh, let me get a cookie. Ooh, let me get some ice cream. Let me get something like that. So instead of still dealing with the emotional piece of it, dealing with the conflict, and you're just saying, you know what? I did that as a child. On 600 Pound Life, you see a lot of the people on there who gained a lot of weight. At the point their parents were arguing or something like that, they would just go in the refrigerator or freezer and just go get something and just eat. And they kept that into a future. So now they either lost weight or gained weight strictly because of that. So that's something just in terms of maybe that's you, or maybe it's something else. Maybe yours is alcohol, maybe yours is whatever. Maybe yours
it could be sweets, it could be everything.
Like but you feel the void of, this feels uncomfortable for me. This gives me comfort. Ice cream gives me comfort. Sneaker bars give me comfort. So I'm eating that out of that. So maybe that's you, and you maybe need to talk about and deal with that issue. 4 is those absent fathers are more prone to depression. Especially Black community, we didn't really talk about depression for the most part. They just be like, go get some ginger ale, go and lay down, or whatever in the sense. But that, if you're more prone to depression, and many times you have not talked about it, many times you had expectations of, you know what, I expected my dad to walk me down the aisle when I got married, and now, or maybe he moved across town and got a new family, and now he's more involved in their life than my life, and so all those things just really play a role in that. And so,
and then another thing too, you tend to avoid healthy relationships. Are you one of those ladies, and I know I went through this, where you always attracted like the bad boys or whatnot like that, because you avoid healthy relationships, right? So you tend to jump in those healthy relationships that basically ultimately lead to like heartbreak, because you feel like you don't deserve a healthy relationship, or you fear of getting hurt, or whatever the situation is. So And then because you feel abandonment, rejection, all these things, so you like, you know what? You feel like you don't deserve to be a part of a healthy relationship.
Yeah. Oh, you said something, or you start to look for people just in the same vein you're saying of like, I want people that I can always control. So somebody who doesn't work, somebody who has something that they need me, they can't leave me because now I have the car.
But so then when you get in that, then they driving your car and all that stuff.
You ain't never putting gas in the car.
You become a baby boy situation.
And so, but if you look deep in that movie on Baby Boy and all those things, I'm always thinking from that angle, why would that person, and typically somebody that's successful from society's terms, still has not mastered what they miss in that daddy issue? So they look for people who they can control, or somebody, or if it's vice versa. Oh, if I get with this person, I already don't feel like I'm enough. But if I get with somebody who needs me, somebody who doesn't have, or somebody who just have sex with me, and now I feel like I'm enough because they need me in that place. They can't leave me because guess what? They don't have another place to go. They don't have another car to get to. They don't have anything like that. So I subconsciously let people in who aren't emotionally healthy or have scars just like me, or I feel like have worse scars than me, and so I take that in right there. Yep.
Yes. And so Dallas daughters, number 5, Dallas daughters are more likely to become sexually active earlier. Studies have shown that many benefits that come from a strong father-daughter bond. Most notably, girls who are close to their dads are less likely to engage in sexual activity or get pregnant or any of these things early on in life.
So after you get married, then you can let that thing loose. So you can keep that when you get married. You get in there. You can let that, get them yams just good in season. That's what you want to use that right there. See, but sometimes it can be reversed though. Sometimes it can be the fact of if you saw your parent not be romantic like that, then that can carry over into the other side too. About, you know what, my mama ain't ever need no man. You don't want to get me. Don't worry, I'll get in my. It can be a natural, reflection of that side too. So being able to see where you are.
Right. So fathers are important. As we can say, fathers are important. Just like mothers. I think a lot of times we say mothers are important, but fathers are just as important when it comes down to, I think sometimes as women, especially in the African American community, like we tend to persevere through, right? We become more resilient, but we don't realize the impact that it can have on other relationships as a result. Because we make it, we become successful, we do all these things, but what about the other parts, because people's like, well, I didn't get pregnant when I was 16, and but the thing about it is, look at the other things. You can't keep a standing relationship. You can't have a relationship, or you're successful, and you're like, well, and then or when it does become a healthy relationship, you try your best to find something wrong and sabotage the relationship.
Look at the way he sleep on this one side. And so
and the last one.
Abandoned daughters are susceptible to addiction. That addiction can come just like you named before. I'm addicted to this one type of person. I'm addicted to maybe drugs. I'm addicted to alcohol. I may be addicted to just the fact of never putting myself in a vulnerable place. That comes out of what I'm sharing of it gets down to the point of if my daddy who birthed me, I'm genetically connected to, does not love me, how can somebody else love me? Ooh, that hurt.
And the thing about it is, you're really just trying to numb the pain. Like, we're just trying to numb the pain from whether it's alcohol, whether it's substance abuse, or whatever it's food. We're really just trying to numb the pain. Majority of the time, I do watch 600 Pound Life. I love 600 Pound Life because it really gives you a lot of insight on people and the dynamics and how things that like 98% of the time, it is the reason why people get to where they are is because of stuff that happened in their childhood. 98%. And I'm serious. I got the episodes recorded, so I'm telling you what I know. Majority of the time is because of things, whether it was they were abused as a child, whether their parent wasn't there, whether they felt like they were bullied. Majority of the time, people, because even Dr. Now, he said, you don't get 600, 700 pounds by eating healthy. And you don't get that way because you had a normal childhood. You get that way because something triggered in you as a child, and you find comfort in food. Some people found comfort in alcohol. Some people found comfort in drugs. But some people found comfort in food. And I think we need to check that. Like, You find it's something that like you find comfort in food. You be like, well, you know what? Well, at least it's not alcohol and at least it's not drugs, but it's just as dangerous. Like food could be just as dangerous, you know.
Every day
From heart attack and all of that stuff. So we get to that point because even for me, I have to check myself when I have one of these moments where I'm just like eating, like.
And I'll say something.
Yeah, what you say? What you say?
And this is a very dangerous place. I think other people say, you're like, okay, all right, let me play this episode back there. You can see what's going on. But I think it's the fact of some people have even issues with God because of I've never had an authoritative like relationship, and so I'm pushing against that. So any type of accountability, just what you mean? It just feels. It rubs me, triggers me back to what I dislike about myself in that moment. So I reject any type of anybody that could push me in a way that could make me better because I'm still upset about my father not being there. And so I think that kind of comes out too because I'm like, now like, well, what do I want to help, but I don't want to say it. And so, but I think having conversations like this, I think helps open the door that person may not be like trying to control you, but just trying to help.
Because I think I mentioned that before. I be telling Jeff, like, you know my daddy. Because I didn't have, I don't like, you know my daddy.
I was like, if I was.
What you say?
But that's a good point. That's a good point.
So finally.
Love. I got to love. So list these 6 things to your partner and ask them, does any of these 6 sound like me? So these 6 things we just named, do any of them sound like me? And be open now. Don't get too, what you say, you say I'm feel like that, let your hands go. You may have to hold your hands like this. I don't hold them out. Because again, naturally, anytime somebody gives you something like that, that's the truth. We talk about radical honesty all the time about that's the way you get to intimacy is radical honesty with each other. And not mean, right? But like in terms of like, I care about you in those things. And this is something that I've seen you lash out in this way. I don't know how to respond. But at least, being able to, or, I've seen these things. So being able to talk about that.
And I want to read this last thing. According to Caitlin, a grief counselor and therapist, to recover from a father's abandonment, a woman must learn how to father herself, hold herself, and receive the type of love a father provides. It is a lifelong process. It is. But with the proper support, tools, and patience, it is totally possible. That being said, the grief and pain never goes away. It just changes. A daughter whose father abandoned her can grow, thrive, learn, excel, succeed, love, and be loved, and live a wonderful life when she realizes that the problem isn't her, it's him. This is the first step towards healing. And I want to say something in regards to that. Okay. Like, it is grief. Like, it's grief because it is grief because, like, especially when your father is alive, right? Because when your father is alive, you're like, okay, the person is there, right? The person is there, but you ask yourself all these why questions. You know what I'm saying? So it is a form of grief. So again, it's not to say we could thrive, we could do all of that, but we have to check our emotions and be like, okay, you know what, get some counseling, realize that it wasn't us, it was him, and just like, so we can heal from this. And the thing about it is it's growing, it's ever changing, it's ever growing. And so like, we just have to learn, we have to grow from these things.
Yes. Yeah, you made me think about something too, about the 6 stages, I think it's 6 stages of grief, and I was going to say that piece is numbness and denial, like something happened right here, so I can't believe my father left, I can't believe the situation, anxiety and panic, oh my, what am I going to do about that, bargaining and control, frustration and anger, depression and despair, and acceptance and peace. And many people never get to acceptance and peace because we're stuck on one of those ladders in those places right there. So where are you? You got daddy issues, like a lot of us have. Shaq, we talked about other places. LeBron James, he's made a life. He's become a great father, overcome some of those things. But I'm sure he's had to deal with a lot of those things. And like dealing with kids for like 15 years, I've heard from all ages of kids, and they ask the situation like, why my dad don't love me? Will Smith in the episode, in the classic episode when he was packing his bags on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh yeah,
it was going with his dad. His dad came and talked to Uncle Phil real quick and tell him, hey, look, all right, tell Will, all right, look, in a couple weeks I'm gonna come back and pick him up. He's like, no, you tell him yourself. And Will comes in that moment. He looks at me, he's like, Daddy, yo, what's going on? I got my bag. He's like, hey, something came up, son. but I got you next time. He's like, okay, okay, cool.
You know what? I cry every time on the episode. I don't care how many times I've watched the episode because I felt his pain. Like, you feel that pain because it's kind of like, man, you waited for this lot, you know, this moment. Because, you know, what happened was, you know, keep in mind, when he first came there, he was resistant to him, right? And then they started hanging out. He opened up the door. They was on the path of healing. He's like, yeah, you could go with me. And then all of a sudden, he changed his mind. And so it's like, dang, like, I opened up my heart to rebuild. And then you still hurt me again. Like, why would you do that? You could have. Why did you even come back in my life if you were going to do that? That's exactly, right. So
yeah. And his dad responded. I remember his dad responded. He was like, "I didn't pick this. It just happened." Yeah. that was a good actor. Yeah. Great actor from those actors right there. Yeah. Rest in peace, Dr. Field too. Yeah. I mean, Uncle Field, not Dr. Field. But yeah. And so letting yourself open, it becomes hurtful once you relive those same scars. Finally, I forgave him, I let him in, and he let me back down. And then you let me back down all over again. So now, before when there was a wall, and it took me chipping that wall down, now I'm finna cement this thing up here now. Yeah. Now I'm never letting anybody get into that place. I think many people are in that same place. But when Uncle Phil went and hugged him like this, at the end, because he was like, all the stuff he started to deflect, like, you know what? I went on my first date without him. I drove my first car without him. I got my first honey without him. So hell with him. And he looked up, and then when Uncle Phil went and hugged him like this, he said, "Why you don't love me? Why you don't love me, man?" That's that's heartbreaking right there. But and
I cry every time on the episode.
Many people in the same boat. We in the same place. Oh, why you don't? And that's the question that we wanted to ask our fathers, and many people have fathers that passed on and maybe not in a place they can even talk to them, and you live through that question of, man, why my dad didn't love me, or why my mom didn't love me, and I'm feeling it with sex, I'm feeling it with relationships that don't mean me any good,
I feel it with food, I feel it with alcohol, I feel it with drugs, I feel it with anything to numb pain.
With shopping, I'm feeling myself. I got an Amazon pack, I got 18 Amazon packages right now, because I just get
I feel it with my career.
Yes, I'm grinding. I'm the best lawyer in the city out here. I'm out here hustling and grinding. But really, you ask the same question Will Smith asked Uncle Phil, man, why my daddy don't love me, man? Why my daddy don't love me? Plays out. You may be in a relationship, married right now with somebody, and you can't really fully love your spouse until you do what we get to that place of peace of saying, you know what? I accept it. I had an expectation of having a relationship with my father this way. But I accept the fact that he may never be there. And maybe he struggled with some of the same thing with his father and vice versa and back then. No excuses for anybody. But just saying, once you get a chance to see the context of this situation, and it had nothing to do with you.
So, great episode.
Yes. Mr. Muncher. Yes. Yeah. Mr. Muncher.
Episode 50.
Thank y'all for rocking with us, man. If anything, it costs you nothing. Hit that subscribe button. I promise you it gets it to more viewers so they'll be able to listen to this or whatever. Or Apple Podcast too. Give us a rating. Give us that 5 stars too as well. So appreciate it.
Because it absolutely costs you.
It's free.
Nothing.
It is free. Yes. And shout out to everybody who's bought a Devil is Busy shirt. The Devil is Busy shirt. Appreciate that. If you need one, holler at your boy. I can get you real quick. So please.
Did you give me one? You give me one?
Yeah, I got you.
I want that gray one.
You want the gray one? You want the gray and red? The gray and red is very popular. The black and red is popular. And we got the white and red. See,
I got enough black shirts.
The Devil is Busy. You try to get something. Okay, you all get through this episode. This is just a way to connect anytime. We call it the Mr. Mantras, where you look at your spouse, look at yourself in the mirror. If you single right now, look at your mirror and then you kiss yourself in the mirror. You say, I like you, I love you, and I want you. Looking kind of good.
All right.
Trying to go ahead and make a... So listen, we love you, man. God loves you, and ain't nothing you can do about it. New episodes every Tuesday. Thank y'all. We love you. Come on back.
Yes.